All right. Thank you for tuning in to another episode rocking with you here on a Monday. Did not record yesterday. Yesterday was the 1 year memorial for my brother, Izu. Rest in peace, Chief Izu. So took the day off, but let's get back to it. He always had a hard working spirit. And in his honor, I'm going to go ahead and cover the first conference today, break down all the conferences before the season starts in a little bit over a week, man. Football is back, baby. Football is back. So, but let's get to the news of the day. So, Jimmy Garoppolo agrees to a restructured contract and will remain with the Niners. So, this is interesting because he had them over the barrel. His money was guaranteed at $24 million. Now, they would have to pay a portion of it. So, excuse me, it wasn't guaranteed, but he could have forced his way out and said, no, cut me. But he decided to stay, and they can't franchise tag him. So maybe he was concerned, hey, somebody might place a waiver claim for me if I get cut, and I don't want to deal with being on a team that I don't want to be on, and then potentially get franchise tagged by that team. So in this restructure, he has a lot of playing bonuses, but more than anything, he has a no trade clause and a no tag clause. So this is his last year with the Niners, if he wants it to be. He completely controls his own destiny. And it seems like for him, that was the more important thing. There was talks by Mike Lombardi, used to work at the Ringer, used to be the Browns GM, that he was definitely going to go to Seattle. And those talks kind of heated up the past couple of days. And I think this was a way to kind of bridge the gap here because the Niners weren't going to let him go and go to Seattle and potentially be the starter there. They played them week 2. And he didn't want to put himself at the risk that another team might step up and actually claim him. So I'm guessing, this is just a win-win for both of them. A lot of pressure on Trey Lance. I said that Trey Lance, in my personal opinion, when I did the Niners breakdown, has Super Bowl potential, MVP type potential. I think that Shanahan system is a hard system to grasp initially for all the reasons I've laid out before, the boots, all that good stuff. And generally it's the second year that you see guys make their jump. So I expect him to make a jump here. So it's a good thing for the Niners. Injury wise, you would love to have a Jimmy G as a backup if something happens to Trey Lance. So, and in the worst case scenario, knock on wood, that he struggles, then, you have a guy who done it somewhat before. So it works out for both teams. The next thing I want to talk about was, first of all, prayers to my man, Brian Robinson, running back previously of Alabama, now the Commanders, got shot in a carjacking. That's insane, bro. But nothing, not life threatening. And Ron Rivera said there's an opportunity that he can actually come back this season. So, shout out to him. He looked like he had the starting position sold up. But that's just the way things happen. But he escaped with his life, and everything is everything. So Jim Harbaugh, he calls his decision to start Caden McNamara and JJ McCarthy each game biblical. You see, the thing about Harbaugh is he came in and he's a quarterbacks guy. Came in. I think he recruited Andrew Luck. Had Josh Johnson at San Diego State, a prolific backup quarterback in the NFL, but he hasn't been able to crack the code with quarterback at Michigan. The best job, the most prestigious job of all. And there's been a lot of transfers, and they all skip it. And you would think a pro-style system would be something that would be intriguing to a quarterback, and it just hasn't happened for them. So McCarthy played a little bit last year. He's a more athletic guy. McNamara was the one that led them to the college football playoffs the previous season. I mean, I think if you have two, you have none, like they always say, but I would play the younger guy. If Cade, after a whole year of starting, hasn't separated himself, it should obviously be the younger guy. But again, the him not being able to solve this riddle at quarterback his whole tenure there is just insane to me. You know, he's always going to be in a talent deficit with Ohio State. Ohio State just has that prestige, but you would think that with his scheme, his coaching, and the ability to draw a quarterback, he could kind of level the playing field, and he hasn't been able to do that. Maybe it's because he's just so quirky and so weird. And then that's not a pejorative. I think he would even say that he's weird and quirky compared to other guys. You know, he say he doesn't eat chicken because it's a nervous bird. He eats steak and drinks a glass of milk every day. So, I mean, forget all the political stuff. That aside, just as a football coach, he's kind of an odd duck, and maybe that doesn't really resonate with the players. But we'll see. I thought that was interesting. You know, this is the official start of college football. You know, you had that Northwestern Nebraska game, which I wanted to break down. I might do a video for it, but um, let's see here. Irish 17 and a half point dog. That's insane to me, to be this big of a dog because um, Ohio State has shown a complete inability to defend anyone since Urban Meyer has left. In these type of games, um, I've seen them before. You know, watching football all this time, there's a high-powered offense playing a team with the elite running game, a team that can just maul you, and the high-powered offense, a turnover, fumble, drop ball. Next thing you know, the other team is just running the ball down your throat and chewing up clock. So this is one of my favorite bets of the weekend. So I love Notre Dame getting this many points. This is insane. This is insane. Even a backdoor cover. You know, C.J. Stroud is one of the better quarterbacks in the league in college football, but he's playing with a whole new receiving core. A lot of those guys played in the Rose Bowl, so it's not like they haven't played, but a whole new core. And again, they haven't been able to defend anybody. So just the idea that they're just gonna just blow them off the map when you're 17 and a half point favorite, that's insane. And Notre Dame is the 5 seed and the number 5 ranked team, excuse me, in college football, and Ohio State is the second. So there's that much of a gap. Now you get 3 points for a home field, and I believe Ohio State is the home team. So you're saying that they're 14. The difference between 2 and 5 is 14 and a half points. It's insane, man. So, I mean, we'll see. And then Brian Kelly has kept the starting quarterback situation a secret. So you have the boy Jaden Daniels, who's a 5-star recruit coming from Arizona State, skinny as a rifle. Hopefully he's added some weight, but it never really happened for him at Arizona State. And then there's this Garrett Nussenberger. I don't really know him too well. Nussenberger backed up Max Johnson. So if he's the backup Max Johnson, he's sorry, because Max Johnson went to Texas A&M and he didn't win the job there. He lost to King. So I would expect it to be um, Jaden Daniels. You know, this guy that came in with a lot of fanfare, and NFL teams were looking at his progression. And, you know, there was an NFL style offense at Arizona State. Herm Edwards is the coach there. They had an NFL defense coordinator, Antonio Pierce, former Giants linebacker, was a D coordinator there. I forget who was running the offense, but I think it was a former NFL offensive coordinator. And it just never worked out for him there. So maybe it works out for him in LSU. But this is an interesting year in college football because there's some guys lurking with this NIL money and this transfer portal. It's really just reinvigorated. I think it's great. You know, a lot of people are clutching their plurals, but you know, even the teams that don't have the money to compete in the NIL game, you can be transfer central. You know, Nebraska, they had, like I said on Saturday, they had transfers galore. Alabama transfer, Oregon transfer. So you could be the team that could be transfer central. That's why I think Ole Miss has to start looking at. We're getting all the transfers, you know, because of NIL. Um, I think that there's going to be constantly people in the transfer portal. It's going to be a constant shuffling of rosters. If you're not a starter and you're a high recruit, um, you out the door. You're not waiting a year or two. You know, Brian Robertson, who I just mentioned, he waited 3 years to be the starter at Alabama. With the NIL money, with the new backs that are going to be coming in, and the cycling and the fighting for people in the transfer portal, I don't think that type of story happens again. A Joe Burrow waiting 3 years and then finally going to LSU. I don't think that way. He was at Ohio State. I don't think those stories happen again. So you have to position yourself as transfer central if you can't compete in the money game. So I think that's going to be interesting down the road. But I expect JT Daniels to start. And then I wanted to talk about this. Let's see, catch points. It doesn't look like the Lamar Jackson. It doesn't look like the Lamar Jackson deal is going to get done. So, man, this is crazy. John Wall said he thought about committing suicide. When he tore his ACL, his mom passed, his grandmother died the next year. He had COVID, he was going to chemotherapy with his mom. You know, he signed a super max contract. So most people will say, hey, you know, I would love to be in your position, but you never know how people are holding it. And you know, that's really sad to hear. You know, I'm happy that he's got through it and he needs a better headspace. But yeah, that's tough. But what I was going to talk about was this. So Lamar Jackson fires back on a fan. The fan says, "You're on the hot seat. Give that man a $250 million guaranteed contract." What Deshaun Watson got. And then someone said he wants more. They already offered that. And Lamar Jackson said, no, they didn't. So it seems like we have our first true sign of what is going on here. Lamar Jackson wants the same thing Deshaun Watson got. I'm an MVP in this league. I want the same thing that he got. Guaranteed. You know? So what do the Ravens do? You guarantee his contract, but the style of play that he plays, as you're asking for some trouble. At the same time, though, there's going to be a massive cap spike in the NFL. That's coming. Massive cap spike. They're probably going to get double the revenue on the next contract. And they're getting 1.5 right now. They're getting 3. And remember, everything is split down the middle. So you might see almost the salary cap bump up 50%, you know, 50, 60, 70%, right? So $50 million might be a bargain here soon. And when you guarantee it, then there's no renegotiation. So it might be the smart thing to go ahead and do it. But it's an interesting conundrum because I think a lot of people, like, for example, when Dak signed his contract, he had his eyes on, let me go ahead and sign a shorter deal, because the Cowboys weren't complaining about the money. The Cowboys were complaining about the length of the deal. They wanted a long-term deal, the Patrick Mahomes style deal. But Dak wanted to get his money and then jump back into the market. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But yeah, this provides some clarity. So NFC East. I'm just going to do the most pressing question here on the NFC East team. So let's go ahead and bring up the conference NFC East odds. So right now the favorite is the Cowboys at plus 150, the Eagles at the same. So it's pretty much the same thing tier. Both of them are plus 150. Looks like the Commanders are plus 600 on average, and the Giants are plus 800. So plus means you put down 100. If you're plus 150 and you win the bet, I give you 150 back plus, the money that you put down. So you put down 100 on the Cowboys to win, they'll give you 250 back if they end up winning the division. So I already did the Cowboys breakdown, and I talked about their offensive line and how their team is fundamentally changing from the Tony Romo era Cowboys, the most successful run of the Cowboys history, to what you have now. And a large part of it is the offensive line. They had the best offensive line in the league with three damn near Hall of Fame players in Tyron Smith and Fredericks and what's the guard's name? I'm blanking here. You had three Hall of Fame players. You had Doug Free, who was a really good player, and you had Ronald Leary, who was a Pro Bowl player as well. So you had all those together. You had probably the best offensive line I've seen in recent memory. I can't think of an offensive line that's better. This year's Chiefs offensive line might be that good. And we'll talk about them. We'll do AFC West tomorrow. But now Tyron Smith is hurt. Jerry Jones has come out and said that he might not be ready for the playoffs. So you have a guy that they drafted in the first round, but now you're shuffling and moving parts. So I would fade the Cowboys this year. I just don't see it with all the injuries, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Again, I think they're getting Sean Payton next year. This class is stocked with quarterback talent. If you really flame out and you get a top 4 or 5 pick and you draft your quarterback of the future and then maybe trade Dak for a 1 or 2 and let Sean Payton rebuild and use the money that Dak is being paid to, patch up holes, I could see this actually being a win-win for the Cowboys, but I just don't see it for them this year. A team that a lot of people are hot on is the Eagles. And the number one question for the Eagles is Jalen Hurts. I mean, I think that this is one of those rosters where top to bottom, it's probably one of the best rosters in the league. You have one of the best offensive lines in the league, bar none. Probably the best right tackle in Lane Johnson. You have Jason Kelce that's on his final season, but they drafted a first-round center. You have Selamolo at the left tackle position, who has been just a dominant player, dominant to the point that they drafted Andrew Dillard, and he just can't get on the field because the left tackle is so dominant. I don't think it's I don't think his name is Solomon. I think he has a different. I forget who I'm thinking of, but they have a dominant left tackle. He's a former rugby player. My brain is getting low at this time of day. So the offensive line is there. The running back position, Miles Sanders is a good player. There's some talk about them trading for Hunt, but they have a good running back core by Boston Scott, paid dividends. They have Devontae Smith, who won the Heisman, an elite receiver that they drafted in the first round. You pair him with A.J. Brown, who they traded for in the first round. The tight end position is stacked as well. You go defensively, the defensive line is a monster. That boy Jordan Davis just looks like a complete beast, wrecking ball. The secondary, they were able to bring in Bradbury this year to pair him with Darius Slay. So I think that's one of the better cornerback tandems in the league. This team is ready to compete. The only question mark truly is Jalen Hurts. Is he good enough? My answer is no. I just haven't seen him consistently down to down make the passes. And hey, guys can make jumps. We saw Josh Allen make a jump. So maybe I'm wrong. I never predicted. I don't think anybody could have predicted the jump that Josh Allen made. So hey, maybe he put the work in and he's going to show improve this year. If he did, then this team is a Super Bowl contender. So I do think the best bet to win the division, because this division is just a shamakery, is a sad commentary. This is one of probably the most storied division in football, with the Giants, the Eagles, America's team, the Cowboys, and the hog moles, the commanders, but the Washington racial slurs, but uh, is just falling on hard times. So yeah, even with those doubts, I think they're going to be able to run the ball effective enough. And I just think pound for pound, they have the best roster in the division by far. So yeah, I would love to take them in the division. I think the only reason that it's the same as the Cowboys number is public. So public money can move a line. And I think the public money has kept the Cowboys as the favorite. Because if you dropped it any lower, because so much public money is coming on the Cowboys, you put your casino at high exposure. So say, they're both at 150. If you drop Cowboys to say 300 and say, the rookie tackle is good, Dak has his best year, they hit on all their first round picks, the most bet team in football is the Cowboys. So you putting yourself at risk for a lot of, exposure if that happens. So that's why I don't think that they're doing it. The next would be, the Commanders. I just don't see it. Carson Wentz, can he regain his form? But even besides that, putting that aside, I think the biggest question is Ron Rivera any good at coaching? He has this name, Riverboat Ron, because of his willingness to go forward on fourth down. But it's easy to be willing to go for it on fourth down when you have the best 4th-and-1 weapon that this league has ever seen in Cam Newton. That's not disputed. Just really think about what I'm saying. There's never been a player who's as effective on fourth down situation as Cam Newton because of his run pass threat and his power run threat. There's been fast quarterbacks. There's never been a quarterback as powerful as he was, right? This guy hasn't had a winning season without coaching Cam Newton, right? He had that one season where Cam got hurt the very first game of the season, losing record. He made the playoffs with Washington his first season, but remember, they went in on a losing record, and the Eagles were beating them in a winner-take-all game, and the Eagles pulled their starters. Remember that. So they made the playoffs that year, but that might be the worst playoff entrant we have in the last 20 years. The Eagles pulled their starters. So how good is this guy actually? And his chops come from defense. He's supposed to be a defensive guy, right? Where do you think the Commanders have fallen defensively? Where were they last year on defensive? And this is a team that drafted 4 straight first rounders on the defensive line. They have invested on defense, right? So, probably to placate him, to placate their head coach, because he was such a hire. Ron Rivera, he's a disciplinarian. He's going to get this wayward team back in track, bring some discipline to them. Let's look team statistics, right? Defensive leaders, right? Commanders, middle of the pack, right? Below average, actually. They're down here in the bottom tier defensively, right? That was last year. Let's look at the season before. Oh, they were second. Oh, it shuts me up. But how good of a coach is he? You've never had a winning record without Cam Newton, right? Was it you or was it Cam Newton? You went to the Super Bowl. Was that you or was it Cam Newton? So we'll see. I mean, this is third year with the team. You can't say now I need to bring in the culture. These things take time. You've completely shaped this team in your image. It's time to hold them or fold them. So the number one question to me is Ron Rivera. Is he a good coach? Because this isn't a terrible roster. They have talent. Like I said, they have 4 first-round picks on the defensive line. The wide receiver core, I think, is actually really, really good. I am a big fan of Doxson. I think that that kid was special at Penn State. He just didn't have anyone to throw him the ball at Penn State. You pair that with Terry McLaurin. I think that they really have a good roster. So the question is, is he good enough? Is the coach good enough? Can he lead them? Because this roster is good enough to make the playoffs. But I wouldn't even put it in my, I wouldn't even, you know, bet a dollar on it. There's no way they're gonna make the playoffs. It's the Commanders, and it's Ron Rivera. What has he done without Cam? And then lastly, the Giants. This they have a really good roster as well. High picks in almost every position. They get they get Brian Dayball. Remember that was the one that Bill Belichick meant to text when he texted Brian Flores. It's a sad commentary, but Brian Dayball from the Bills. So we'll see. A lot of people like Daniel Jones. Greg Cosell, who I really like, he liked Daniel Jones. He says that Daniel Jones is, when he watched play by play, game by game, he made a lot of good plays. He said Joe Judge, the former coach there, he's just one of those coaches where you can't make mistakes. And, I don't believe that's a good way to be as a coach. And Greg Cosell agreed. So, I mean, this team definitely has the talent. My biggest question with them is their defensive line. So let me see. On defense is the talent there. So we pull up their depth chart. I think they got everything you need offensively. You got Galladay, Kadarius Toney's a weapon. I think they drafted a receiver. This is a stacked team. Evan Neal, they just brought in Andrew Thomas. These were both on your bookends, two high picks, high picks, right? High pick in Saquon Barkley, high pick in Daniel Jones. Wendell Robinson from Kentucky is a playmaker. So much of a playmaker that they're thinking about trading Darius Slayton. So it's defensively, where is the beef going to come from? Thibodeau drafted high, Leonard Williams drafted high, Derek Lawrence drafted high. Are these guys going to produce? Are they going to produce? Adoree Jackson, they bring him in from the Titans. McKinney's a high pick. This is a sneaky team. I wouldn't mind throwing some scratch on the Giants, to tell you the truth. I wouldn't mind throwing a couple of dollars. This is a very sneaky team, especially if Jalen Hurts fumbles. This is a very, very sneaky team. What was their odds again? I think it was plus 800. Yeah, because I think, and I got this from my man Haralabob Voulgaris, one of the best NBA gamblers of all time. His story is actually crazy. He worked for the Dallas Mavericks, left Dallas. Now he bought a Division III team in La Liga. The Spanish version of the UEFA team, the champions, not the UEFA, yeah, the UEFA. And he is trying to get them to the higher seed. But he said he doesn't bet like season props unless the money is really good, because you can use that money somewhere else. So say, for example, if you really like the Eagles, right? I love the Eagles to win the division. I'm getting plus odds, plus 150, right? And you throw $10,000 down on this. Wouldn't you have been better served to spend like $5,000 on the Eagles in individual games and then let that add up, and then eventually you're going to get more if you like them, instead of plunking it down and having to wait the whole season to get the money back, right? So you should only really take these bets if you really, really like the odds. And I really like the odds on the Giants, plus 800. Like I just showed you their roster. They have high picks everywhere. So is it the year that they bring it all together? Is Brian Dayball really that offensive genius? Is he really gonna, like, Greg Cosell to me is the preeminent football guy. Like, I'm very arrogant with my football opinions. I don't think anyone, sees the game better than me. I acquiesce to Greg Cosell. So I think the Giants are a sleeper. I think, talking this through, I really like the Giants. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and leave it there. No NBA talk. I mean, training camps are coming. I think that the major news was, this KD thing, and now that has kind of leveled the deck, it's just time to see, show, and prove. So I'm gonna do a hate it or love it on each team, their off season. But yeah, I it's football time, and I'm happy that it's here. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. Game is a game.